Playing the Radical Latino Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands in the air for New York's very own.
Radical Latino is taking you to another level.
Beats by Nebs.
Yeah, what up, my people? Welcome back to another episode of the Radical Latino Show. It's your host, the Radical Latino, aka number 25 on all Latin podcasts, aka Mr. Unsuable for the third week running. So I want to just give a huge shout out to all the new listeners, all the new subscribers. I want to give a huge shout out to all my new people, so, listening to your boy and downloading the podcast and all that. Huge shout out to y'all. As you guys, obviously today's Wednesday. I'm recording this before then, but today's Wednesday, and my trailer dropped for me and Rich Numa's debate. It's gonna happen this Sunday. It's gonna happen live on YouTube this Sunday, but for my podcast people, don't worry about it. After the debate, I'm definitely gonna put it up on the podcast so you guys can hear it, or whatever the case, like a couple of hours after and all that, So don't worry about that, just expect that. But if you guys want to see it live, go to my YouTube channel and you guys can definitely see that debate live. Me and Rich Numa this Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern time, which means at his time it's gonna be 6 p.m. because he lives in California. I'm in New York, you know what I'm saying? So that's a thing. Don't miss it. If I win, he gets to delete his YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying? If he wins, he gets to sue me. I gotta buy him a car. You know what I'm saying? Those are the stakes. So let me know who wins. I put a poll up and all that other shit. You know what I'm saying? So let me know who is gonna win that after the whole debate is over. You know what I'm saying? I put a poll up and stuff like that. Also, for the people that's asking me where the merch is, it's already gone. Last week I already told y'all missed it. Y'all missed out. It was already gone. I said it that it was only for a summer run. Only for a summer run. That's basically it. That was for y'all. If y'all couldn't do it this time, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Just wait for next year. You know what I'm saying? Wait for next year for next summer to come around, and I definitely got y'all. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It's a jam. I'm tired right now. Yo, I've been going to the gym every day since the gym opened back up, man. And I've been hitting it hard, trying to get back in my fighting weight and all that. I felt like I've gained like 20-something pounds, during quarantine, just sitting in the house, not doing anything. It's not good. With that being said, I'm gonna right now read some of the comments for last week's episode. Last week's episode was episode 107. Obviously, this is episode 108, and I'm gonna read the comments. If you want your comments read, write them down on the comment section of this podcast on YouTube. Episode 108, write it down, and I'll definitely read it next week. Johnny Mills says, Radical Latino, don't forget, also Chadwick Boseman playing James Brown in Get On Back in 2014. Yes, I shouldn't forget that. Absolutely, he actually played a really good role. For some reason, I never watched the whole movie through. I always miss it. For some reason, I always miss it, but I felt like I seen the movie here and there. You know what I'm saying? So it's always weird. I gotta sit down and watch the whole thing through. You know what I mean? Wendell said, Philip must be a $5 Indian. Yeah. Yeah. So for those who don't know, I was telling people the weird thing about getting small business loans of small business loans for minorities. And I was telling people about my experience when I went to go get a small business loan, and I walked in there and it was nothing but white folks. Nothing but white folks. And I spoke to one, and some dude named Philip, and he basically said, yeah, I'm like 138 Cherokee. And I'm like, you? 138 Cherokee? He looked white as shit, bro. There was there was no chair or nothing. He had a Hawaiian shirt on and flip-flops. I'm like, oh my God, okay. One feather on his collar. I'm like, all right, okay, Philip, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Moist Picard said, I'm sorry for what happened to you in the hospital. Yeah, when I said that I went in there trying to take out blood, you know, for my blood exam, because mind you, I haven't been to the doctor in 8 years. Just went in there just for regular blood work from the doctor that I just want to say, okay, I want to see everything. Let's take some blood work. And instead of, like, I'm thinking 1 or 2, maybe 3 vials. Nah, they took out like 10 vials of blood on me. I started feeling so weak. I had to go there like fasting. I had to go there hungry. So by the time I got out, I ate something. Yo, that thing hit me. I went straight to sleep. I drove home like 15 minutes. Drove home. I was speeding. I said, I gotta go home. I went straight to sleep. Also, he says your cousin is blessed to have met Chadwick Boseman. Yes, I said that my cousin met Chadwick Boseman, and I spoke to him when I found out he passed away. Me and him spoke. My cousin got very emotional. My cousin, like, he's a really huge Marvel fan. You know, I spoke to him. He got really emotional, and you know, me and him spoke, and you know, the whole thought about, you know, death, you know, came into the conversation and stuff like that. But overall, it was a very emotional thing to hear, you know, about Chadwick passing away. It's very abrupt, very, very weird, you know what I'm saying? Very unexpected, you know what I mean? Truth Teacher, this fucking guy, Truth Teacher. If you guys aren't subscribed to Truth Teacher, please go do. He needs to put out more content, so shout out to him. Truth Teacher says, white supremacy is the ideology of inferiority. Racism is the mythology used to instill the ideology of inferiority in your mind. 100, I couldn't have said it better myself. 100% correct. White supremacy, in layman's terms, is a system set up for people who want to get over on other people by, you know, control, misuse, and, you know, subjugation. You know, when even though all facts come out stating the opposite, you still gonna go based on that system that you believe in. So I couldn't have said it better myself. 100% correct. Also, I don't know, mind you, I'm recording this a couple of days before. This is dropping Wednesday. I did an interview. I'm supposed to be doing an interview tomorrow with somebody that interviewed Antonio. So hopefully you guys check that out. I'll definitely put it up on my page, you know, so you guys could go check that out. Definitely gonna have a great conversation. I already see it being great. You know what I mean? Also, for those who are unaware, I put out. So there's a recent thing going on with white supremacy. So because November is coming up, and the Democrats are trying to do their thing. You know what I'm saying? Trying to do their thing. to get elected and get the evil Donald Trump out of office because he's evil. And you ask the Democrats, okay, what are you gonna do for us? No, don't worry about that, but we gotta get Trump out of office because he's evil. What? You know what I'm saying? That is a very, stupid way of looking at things. We shouldn't just vote just to vote to get a racist person. Either way, we're gonna be screwed either way. Joe Biden isn't any good. Trump isn't any good. So who the fuck are we gonna vote for? You know what I'm saying? So we gotta really look at what is really, pulling the strings. Now, right now, white supremacy is trying to up their numbers. And white supremacy is trying to up their numbers by including everybody that's non-white into the white supremacy umbrella. It's the Asians, right? And now is the Latin people. They're trying to include us Latin people into the white supremacist umbrella, even though they don't see us as brothers. They don't share the same camaraderie with us. I proved it plenty of times when I spoke to that former white supremacist when I did that interview. I proved it. He said it out of his own mouth. Yeah, we're not cool with Latin folks. You know what I'm saying? And when I pointed out that they're Latin people who are part of white supremacist organization, he started to laugh and was like, wow, that's some serious self-hate. That's a former white supremacist saying it out of his mouth. So now there's a propaganda campaign going for Latin people, like literally going for Latin folks. And they're trying to lump us into it and trying to make us, a part of their whole organization and all that other stuff. So I put out my video saying like, yo, this is some bullshit. This is dumb. It's stupid. We shouldn't be falling for this okie doke. Latin people have been used as pawns ever since we got into this country. Some of us were already here in this country. You know what I'm saying? We've been used as pawns against black folks, against even white folks. We've been used as pawns. We're always moved around. Oh, okay, well, we're gonna vote majority Democrat anyway, so there's no reason for them to say anything that is gonna appease us. Just say that, hey, we love Jesus and immigrant rights, immigrant rights, immigrant rights. You know what I'm saying? And then they turn around and just say, just keep them bringing them all over, but we're gonna take some of you back and put y'all in cages, but bring them over here. It's totally fine. We're gonna economically undermine the black community, and that's totally cool because we could definitely do that. So those are the type of things that we have to look out for. Those are the type of things that we got to see, and those are the type of things we got to, okay, white supremacy is using me. Why in the hell am I gonna hook up with a white supremacist organization like the Boogaloo Boys? You know what I'm saying? The Proud Boys, the alt-right, the alt-light. These are all white supremacist organizations. Why would I want to hook up with them? Oh, because we have the same hatred to black folks? What? Does that make any type of sense? So after, let's just say, which is never gonna happen, but let's just say, all right, the hatred between y'all and black folks are strong and that's what's binding you guys, right? Even though they won't let you marry their women and won't let you eat at the big house, that's totally fine as long as you're around white daddy and white mommy and kissing their ass, right? That's totally cool, right? So we're totally gonna forget all about El Paso, Texas. We're just completely gonna forget about that. The fact that a white supremacist went up in there, shot up a Walmart, and he said it under the guise of Latin people are invaders and shouldn't be in this country, even though this is part of our country anyway. We're gonna completely forget all about that, right? We're gonna completely forget all about Dylan Roof's manifesto saying that, hey, Latin people, they're still our enemies. We're completely gonna forget all about that, right? 100% forget all about that, but yet some of our Latin coons want to still hook up with these white supremacists. Are you dumb? Are you dumb? Come on. Stuff like this we shouldn't be allowing stuff like that. And those are the type of coons in our communities that we need to weed out. We need to weed these people out. They are not beneficial for us. They're actually a cancer for us. Okay? We need to weed these people out. They're collaborators. They belong over there. Regardless of what happens to them, I could care less. They're collaborators. Let them figure it out on their own, right? They're their people, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. So somebody, let me go back to my first point. So let's say they take out all the black folks, which is not gonna happen. But let's just say they do. They take out all the black folks. Okay, cool, my Latin brother. You think they're gonna not just, okay, now let's take you out? You think that ain't gonna happen? Let's look at history. How white supremacists never wanted us around. The Zoot Suit riots, Prop 187, the segregation in the schools. Come on now. Come on now. Are you serious? This is a system that puts certain people in pawn type positions where they become extremists based on the belief of that system. Regardless how true or fake it is, it doesn't matter because they give it power. And you're gonna hook up with those same people that want to take out one group of people and not think that you're gonna be taken out also. Stop. So somebody goes out and tries to flag my video down because I'm making sense, right? They try to flag my video down. Yo, I hate this. I hate radical. They flag my video down. Before they flag my video down, YouTube goes like, yo, somebody's trying to flag your video down. We're gonna review it, but here, appeal it before, anything else. So I've appealed it way before the review process goes into place, to the point where the reviewer goes, okay, there's nothing wrong with this. It looks like it was a false flag, but I will age restrict it to 18 years old. That's fine. I don't care. Go right ahead. As long as my message is still being sent. But let's just say this person did take down my video. Are you dumb? You act like I don't have a website. I could put the shit up on my website and still have it shown. Stupid. You know what I'm saying? And that's the type of thing that we also have to, really work around. Learning to have our own thing. Learning to have our own thing in place. Learning to have our own thing in place in order to move along. In order to have our in order to have our business to go along. You know what I'm saying? This is what it is. This is what it is. You know what I'm saying? This is what it is. But also, before I get into the interview, I know I'm talking for a long ass time. My fault, guys. We're gonna get to the interview. Before we get to the interview, I had a lot of requests for people to debate me, and they were really good with that rah-rah shit on Instagram, on emails, and all that. And when I say, yeah, pull up, let's go. I'm ready this time, this day. Let's go, let's do it. And when the time comes, they act like little bitches. And they always run. It's so funny. It's so funny. This is outside the whole Rich Numa thing. This is so funny that you got little fuckface weirdos out here wanting to debate. Yeah, I'll get on your podcast. Yeah, I'll do this and all that. I'm free tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, crickets. Yo, what's up, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, what's up? I'm ready to give you this work, but okay. I guess not. But anyway, let me stop talking because I could talk for another 20 minutes. Let me stop talking. Let me just go on to this interview. Now, I had the pleasure and the privilege to speak to this wonderful, educated, remarkable woman Mexican excellence. It's been a pleasure of mine, something I thought I wouldn't even become close to. She's not only MA, but she has her BA in history, so she knows what the fuck she's talking about. You know, she has her MA and BA in history, focusing on Mexican and indigenous history, so she knows what she's talking about. She's somebody basically to be feared. You can't come at her with no bullshit talking about, well, the Spanish actually, no. I know what I'm talking about and blah, 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 right? I got all her information down below. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. She also does free classes on her YouTube channel. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. I have all her information down below. Like I said before, trust me, you don't want to miss it. I even got her YouTube channel and all that, right? She's a beautiful person, a light, a ray of sunshine to be speaking with, and somebody that we should all be learning from, not from just some regular dude. We should all be getting information, real good, empowering information from the women in our community. You know, so with that being said, here's the interview with me and Mexican Excellence. Enjoy. Yo, what up, my people? Welcome back to another episode of the Radical Latino Show. Now, today I have a very special guest, and I always bring you guys special guests, you know, all the time, you know, it's no different. And today I bring to you Mexican Excellence. What's going on?
What's up, Radical? What's up? I'm very honored to be here with your listeners, with the community. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for even being a part of this. You know, so she goes by the name Citlalli, you know, and you also have, you know, you also go by the name of Mexican Excellence and stuff, so people won't get confused when I call her Citlalli, you know. But you know, thank you for coming here, for being a part of this, you know, empowerment and, you know, healthy conversation. So can you tell the people a little bit about yourself first?
So what's up, everyone? My name is Citlalli Anahuac, born and raised in LA, Tongva territory, from South LA to Southeast LA. I am a poet, activist, historian. I've been an activist for 23 years. I do speeches, I do motivational talks, I talk to youth. I'm a self-published author. I'm on Amazon, and I'm an activist. My goal is to educate our community. My goal is to empower my community. My goal is to make sure that we are proud of who we are and that we stop, you know, systems of white supremacy from dehumanizing us further. You know, there's a lot of us. There's a lot to celebrate. There's a lot to know, and that's what my purpose is, and that's what I hope that my social media and my work, I hope that it speaks to that.
All right. So when did you start your activism? Like at what age, or was it in school? Was it something that you just came about, you know, by accident? Like how did it happen?
Well, growing up in LA in the 1990s, you know, for people that may not know about LA culture, but basically I grew up with Prop 187 was happening, which was Pete Wilson was negating, you know, social services to so-called undocumented people. So I watched, I didn't participate. I was young. I was like, I think like 12, 13. So I witnessed that. I also witnessed a lot of the beatings of people that were undocumented that were crossing the border. So I watched that. There was a lot of things, right? The so-called LA riots, where we know it as LA uprising. So I would say that all those little things really impacted me, but it wasn't until the 9th grade when I started learning my history. And there was a club at my high school. There was a club called Chicano, Mexicano, Mexica Empowerment Committee. Super long. But basically what that club was about, you know, teaching us about our true history, saying that we're not Hispanic or Latino, that there's so many civilizations that were here prior to Christopher Columbus, the richness in sciences, mathematics, and talking about genocide, talking about the denied genocide of our people. So that really, transformed me, right? Like having the awareness of Prop 187 and all that. And then in the ninth grade, getting to know who I was for the first time, because I wasn't taught any of this. None of my teachers, my family members, we're all indoctrinated. We're all, we don't understand the history. So it was in the ninth grade where I actually started learning who I was. And since then, it's become my passion. I read everything I can. I do poetry. I do slam poetry. I have some rap songs on on YouTube. So yeah, every year, it's been a long journey, 23 years that I've been doing this, but every year it just becomes more exciting. It becomes more fulfilling. So yeah, I started in high school, the ninth grade, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity because, I think part of me, because I started so young, I relate to the youth today. And a part of me, anytime I speak, I always focus on youth. I speak to high school students, middle school students, elementary students, because to me, that's a vital age to be, right? When you're learning about yourself and you're trying to connect who you are and you're trying to find out how the world functions. And so my goal is to connect with them, right? To help and to just show them, right? Show them this knowledge that they didn't get, their parents didn't get. It's really, it's missing. It's missing from our community.
Yeah. That's actually very important because, when we have conversations or questions, the first thing we go to is our parents because they're supposed to be a direct descendant from the island or from the land that we're identifying with. And then when they come back with, oh, I don't know, or look it up, it's kind of, discouraging. You know what I mean? Because when I grew up, at least my mom, she knew a little bit more about the Ecuadorian culture and how, the Incas and stuff, and she spoke Quechua, which I found out when we went to Ecuador to the montañas and stuff, at least I was a little bit more like, okay, I'm getting more aware of what it is. You know what I mean? I'm getting more exposed to it. But for the most part, and I could be attest to this, most of my Latin friends, even myself, race wasn't spoken in the household. Our history wasn't really taught in the household. It was pretty much we get like little pieces of crumbs here and there about who we really are and where we really come from. But that's basically it. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
So it's very important for us to actually, engage with the youth and, and actually, let them be the loudspeakers of what we already taught them, because at the end of the day, we're still learning ourselves.
Absolutely.
I'm still learning every day. I'm not saying that I know everything, but I'm still learning every day. At least, with this podcast that I started, for our people, at least I'll be a satellite to that. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Well, so I know you were very young in the LA riots and stuff, but do you remember anything about the LA riots and the Prop 187?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and this, I think what my experience was for the LA uprising, they call it LA riots. Nobody in my family can explain what was happening, right? And I lived in Cudahy. Cudahy was like maybe 3 miles from South LA. So my mom couldn't tell me what was happening. Nobody in my community could tell me what was happening. I didn't have much Black friends. I had like one friend, but she didn't want to talk about it. And so I just remember seeing violence and shootings and violence and not knowing, but I saw Mexicans there. So I was confused, right? Because they're saying, oh, because the anti-Blackness in my community, right, was really fueled with this whole violence thing. But then I would turn on the TV and I was sitting in the living room with my mom and I'm watching a bunch of Mexicans, they're like, it's not just Blacks, it was Mexicans, it was Asians, like everyone was participating in it. And so I remember just feeling like angry and upset and of how Rodney King was beaten and then seeing how that was a common theme in our neighborhood, but it wasn't televised like that. Because me growing up in LA, I saw people get beat up by the police. I saw like my own family members get harassed by the police. So when I saw the Rodney King beatings and that I was really young, I couldn't even, express it. But I remember that anger and that rage, but not knowing how to direct it, or not knowing if I should be feeling guilty or ashamed of feeling that, right? Because I didn't have my mom to explain to me. My mom was scared, my mom was scared, my pops was scared. Everyone was just like trying to keep a low profile. But a lot of my family members, I mean, I saw them there, right? They participated. It was a lot. It was a lot of things going on, but I just remember the intensity of it. And Prop 187, I think that's the one that hurt me the most, because I remember a very particular commercial that came out. It was black and white commercial. It was a prop, to promote, right? To promote Prop 187.
It was a very,
and
it was very ominous, because you have, like, the voice from the movie trailers. It was like,
right.
They keep coming. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's the one. That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I, I'm sitting in the living room with my mom cooking and stuff, and watching that, and just feeling attacked, feeling like that's me, feeling like that's my mom they're talking about. That's my grandma. That's like, and I don't know how, like, it was anger. It was a shame. I felt like, oh my gosh, like, do we not belong here? Like, what did we do wrong? Or
yeah.
So I'm never gonna forget that, right? And my mom not telling me that. She was just more like, "Oh, mija, just don't, ignore them, ignoralos." Like, and I couldn't, because it hurt. It felt like they were talking to me, like, y'all, you don't belong here. This is a white land. This is America, and it was powerful, And again, not being politicized, not knowing who to talk to about it until years later, but I still have that feeling, right? I still carry that innocence of like, who am I in this country?
It's
right?
It's really funny, because I did an episode on Prop 187. I don't know if you saw it, but anybody who's hearing this after this interview, go check out the episode that I did. It's a series of my podcast that I called America's War Against Latin People, or whatever. And I did a episode on that, and I actually did some deep research to find out. But I don't know if you know, but by any chance, do you know how that prop started?
You know what? I don't. I know it was before Pete Wilson was governor.
Yeah.
It was before him. I'm not sure who the organization was behind it.
Yeah.
But I remember, I'm not sure if this was before Prop 220, which is English only.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was together.
So what happened was that a white man, right, he got swindled by an illegal, for what he called an illegal immigrant, for a contract for his house, or whatever the case is. And he was really good friends with this Republican outreach program that basically collects signatures so bills could get passed. Funny thing is, when he said, "Yo, I got robbed by an illegal immigrant," and he went out and he got all these signatures about illegal immigrants, and then they started, Prop 187 started to actually, get some legs and start to run and run and run. They end up finding out the illegal immigrant that robbed him for his property or whatever, that his contract, was a Canadian.
Wow.
And the thing is, he wasn't even illegal. He wasn't even an illegal immigrant. He was just basically just a regular person. But the thing is, it's very, very, very funny how the word, especially in California, illegal immigrant, automatically associated with Latin people, automatically associated with people who were originally here, but now we don't want them here. You know what I'm saying? It automatically, and the thing is, because immigration isn't a Latin specific issue. It isn't an issue because everybody's immigrants, if you really want to break it down, but it isn't a specific issue on us. So it's very funny how that ad only showed and targeted one group of people. You know what I mean? So it goes to show the impact of white supremacy, or what they really think about us.
Right. Yeah, and it's to naturalize, white occupation on indigenous land, and they try to, this whole terminology of racializing, brown and black folk to be illegal or criminals. It's a way to justify their ongoing occupation of this land, because we never think of Europeans as indigenous people. We never think of Europeans as native people, but they're native too. They're native to Europe. They're native to, a bunch of other places in Europe. And so just the language that is used to denote who belongs and who doesn't, and the way that it's articulated into the Constitution, into laws, into politics, they really try to normalize white supremacy, and they're trying to really make us feel like it's normal, right? It's normal that they're so-called the original founders of this country, and we're the outsiders. And so that has a lot to do with the power of language, the power of definition, and the power of white supremacy.
Yeah. And I have another question for you because you said that you said previously that the racial bias or the racial difference between Mexicans and black people is kind of indifferent, like hostile. Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think that's deeply rooted in white supremacy. I think the way we are all racialized is deeply rooted. And I mean, this goes back to the 1700s, 1600s, just the whole origins of the concept of race, like what was the black race? What was defined as black race? What was defined as red race? It's embedded, right? And now we have African American, we have Hispanic, we have Latino, we have all this, but it's deeply rooted in a white supremacist view of humanity, right? It's a white supremacist gauge on worth, on civilization, on what's biologically human. And I mean, we've been in this struggle for a long time, right? Where 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we're not considered human, right? Or Africans considered 3/5 human. And it's this whole history that we can't escape from it, but people pretend like it happened a long time ago, everything's good now, Black Lives Matter. Like it's not that easy to escape, and I think the violence of white supremacy is in the language as well, right? Is like if you call a Mexican Mexican, a lot of times they get offended. I'm not Mexican. Or I even had this conversation with black friends, like, oh, are you African? Are you black? No, I'm light skinned, or I'm a light skinned black. Like that whole concept of colorism, the concept of we're more beautiful if we have white blood. We're more beautiful if we're more connected to whiteness. Like that's real, and that's real. That's the real trauma of going through genocide, of going through occupation, of going through a system that strips us of our culture, of our languages, and that's an experience that most people of color, experience, right? So black, brown, Asian, like we've all been hit with this wave of white supremacy, and I think that's more that we have to talk about because we don't really talk about that.
Yeah, and the thing is, I find myself when it comes to some of the ignorant people, I find myself defending Latin people because they tend to point out at the dysfunctional people in our community as the representative for all of us. Like they would say, "Oh, well, look at this black and brown unity. We have a Mexican kid beating up and robbing black folks, and he's only doing it to black people." You know what I mean? And they're supposed to be the representative for the whole community. And when I point out the same thing, vice versa, I'm like, so you don't see this happening? Because it doesn't just happen one way. It happens all different ways. They stay shut or they just start finding excuses. Yep. What do you think, or what do you say on some of the people who do try to cause that division, who do try to put Latin people, again, like claiming them that they're the real racists or whatever? What do you got to say about that?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because this year, specifically this year, I don't know if you were reading on what was happening in LA, but there was like these famous videos of black youth attacking street vendors, and a lot of the street vendors happen to be Mexican, Central American.
Yeah.
And I made videos because I would notice right away, right, Mexican, Central American, brown community, right away we're like, that's why we're not down with Black Lives Matter. And that's why it is. And that's like, you know what I'm saying? Like my community or the Mexican Central American community quickly was like, oh, screw black people. Oh, that's all black people. Oh, that's why we're not down with them.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side, right? You have the other side of the argument where it's like black people against Mexicans. And so I did videos on that on my YouTube, and I've been addressing that for years. And what the ignorant people say is like, why are you defending the black community? Oh, you're selling out. oh, you must have a black husband.
Yeah.
Oh, you must have a black child. I was like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, and even if I did, like, how does that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, but I'm
yeah.
telling you, like, that division is real, right?
Yeah.
That division is real. And when I speak out against it, because obviously that's the right thing to do, but because I know that there's a lot of people that think like me. You know, I grew up in South LA. I grew up seeing gangsters taxing street vendors, Mexican gangsters taxing street vendors, right? And then, you know, if you're not around that, if you didn't grow up around that, you're quickly gonna let yourself be manipulated by these divisions online, right? These videos that hype up, you know, certain racial tensions, because what people don't talk about, a lot of these social platforms, right? The more traffic they get, the more they add fuel to the fire. That's money in their pocket, right? And that's what I was calling out on Instagram, where you have all these Chicano pages, they're anonymous pages, they won't show who they are, but all they talk about is anti-black,
Yeah.
black people did this, black people did this.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
to me, I understand the money aspect of social media. So I was like, yo, like, you're over here promoting something that's so dangerous in our community, that's dangerous. You're adding fuel to the fire. Like, people didn't go through race wars. I could tell when people comment, they don't know what it's like to go on a race war in LA. They don't know what that tension is like. They've never lost someone to that. And so these youngsters, they think it's easy, and they're adding all this fuel, and all these pages that have no accountability, right? They're just manipulating people's emotions because they're anti-black. They already don't like black people. And so they're trying to bring in this animosity. And so to me, I was like, yo, like, if you're going to talk about this, talk about how street vendors are attacked by all people. Our people attack street vendors. Black people attack street vendors. Like, it's not a race thing, right? And people don't like to hear that. People do not like to hear that because it goes against their anti-blackness, and it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't reinforce, oh, you know, fuck, shit, now I can't say that I'm like against black people. But
No, because
but it is real.
No,
you know?
it's kind of funny because these are the same people that don't call themselves racist, and these are the same people that say, "Oh, I'm not a racist," but everything in their page or YouTube channel is everything about anti-blackness, the dysfunction of certain individuals in these communities, and then they paint the whole community in one brush, but then they get surprised. How am I racist? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And the thing is,
but it is. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's all right. The thing is, I always tell people, I'm like, don't let the coons of our society represent us, because if you are doing that, and it's funny because I've gotten into certain Instagram and Twitter beefs. They're like, oh, then point this out. I'm like, okay, then point this one out too. You know what I mean? I show them the same incident that they just telling me about Latin people being racist, about attacking a black person. Hey, here's a video of a black person attacking a Mexican person. So what's your point on that? You know?
Right.
Which makes no sense whatsoever, because I'm like, what are we doing about pointing about the dysfunction of our community? Who cares? You know, let's come together to heal, but you don't want to do that. So it's okay. Exactly. So you just stay over there and be dysfunctional. I'll go over here and try to empower my people.
Exactly. And that's the thing with these pages. Like I said, they have millions of views, and every view that they get, it's money, right? It's algorithm. They're trying to exploit it. They're trying to make money from it. And so it's like, what does that say about those individuals? What does that say about that perception?
Yeah.
You know, but to me, that's why it's like, I have to speak the truth. People like yourself, like, there's a lot of us out here that are speaking the truth, but people don't like to hear it, right?
Yeah.
People don't like to hear it because it shows like not a weakness, but it shows like, you know what, we have a lot of growing to do. And I can tell people don't like, and I hate to say this, but I can tell people that go on these pages, they're not aware of the black community. They didn't grow up in the black community. They're not, you know what I'm saying? They're isolated. They're in some freaking desert or something. Like, they don't communicate outside of their own little world. And so when you're isolated like that, and you don't have a diverse group of people, and you don't participate in black culture and like nothing like that, you can tell. It's real quick to tell, like, who's isolated and self-absorbed.
It's funny.
You know?
It's funny because I've always said that majority of Latin people live in black communities, and vice versa. Majority of black people live in Latin communities, because either way, these are poor communities that are made poor by white supremacy, and and we have no choice due to our economic standing or whatever the case is, that's the reason why we live in those type of communities. You know what I'm saying? So I say all the time, like, majority of us Latin people, we live in these communities. You do find the rare occasions, like the ones who are completely isolated and separated from those type of communities, who just come out with these little cockamamie reasons on why they hate black people or whatever the case is, you know, which is completely weird and doesn't make any type of sense, you know, completely weird. But they have their reasons for whatever, but it's kind of funny, you know, just to know, like, okay, yeah, you didn't really grow up in that community, so what are you talking about? You got no basis to even have an informed opinion on this whole point, you know?
Right. And this whole thing too, like the people that because I no longer have an Instagram, like I deleted it. But what I noticed was the people that are quick to talk smack and talk shit about black community, they don't do nothing when white people are you know, are attacking our community. When the white supremacists, like they're silent, like nothing.
Exactly.
Tumbleweeds. Right? Tumbleweeds. But all of a sudden, it's like, oh, black, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, there's a black attack or something. All of a sudden, they're passionate. They have all this energy. And I question that. I'm like, where's your ethics, right? Where do you stand? Like, why is it that you don't have nothing to say when there's all these attacks and the police brutality?
It's funny because there's a certain individual that goes on YouTube who talks about black men who travel to Latin America. You know what I mean? And some of these black men who travel to Latin America, Dominican Republic, Mexico, whatever the case is, some of them, they do act on, you know, I'm not gonna say predatory behavior, but they get prostitutes or whatever the case is, and they flaunt it. Who cares? You know, they're living the single life. You know what I mean? And they tend. These type of individuals tend to actually look at that, say, oh, see, this is all what black people want, you know, this and this and this, and they go into this whole thing of, oh, we got to protect the women over there, when in reality that's not the case, because they just have anti-blackness within them, you know, and they're mirroring it over this, oh, I just want to protect the women, when in reality they're not doing anything over there to protect nobody. You know what I mean? It's really funny. It's really funny. But but I got a question. So how does your family feel, or just feel? How does your family feel about the way your career has taken off on some of your stances?
You know, well, because I started doing this really young, like at 14, 15. At first I thought, okay, let me tell you, I was a punk rocker, okay? So before I even got into my history and my culture, you need to know that I was a punk rocker with a mohawk. I was like, you know what I'm saying?
You look like Kat Von D?
I was already on like, fuck, you know what I'm saying? Like punk rock fuck the government. And I was already going through that at a very young age.
You were with white boys eating potato salad with raisins?
Oh, hell no. I didn't take it that far. No, I kept it. Yeah, no, for real. Because in LA, I was straight edge too, right? And the straight edge movement is predominantly white.
Oh, okay.
But for some reason, I found like the black and brown, you know, niche of straight edge, which was bomb. But again, this is without me knowing. This is like I'm just against oppression, right?
You didn't have little white friends like, yeah, bruh, come on, man, let's go.
No, I didn't. Not where I live. Where you grew up, where I grew up, there's no white people. Even if you tried. The only white people I knew were my teachers, and that's it, and counselors. That's it.
Yeah,
like nobody else was white.
They didn't make you Rice Krispie treats. Like, come here, let's go. No.
They did.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, we got it. No, let me stop.
But you know what I'm saying? So I was already on that path. So when I started learning my history and I started telling my family, like, we're not illegal, we're not white, we're not, they're just like, oh shit, here she goes. Like, there's another, you know what I mean? Like, here's another uprising.
Yeah.
When they saw that, because I mean, I was fucking up in high school. I was fucking up my first year. I was fucking up. Like, I was ditching. I wasn't doing nothing stupid, but I was just like, fuck school. It's not for me. But when I started learning my history, the second semester of my 9th grade, going into my 10th grade, I was like, I can't be fucking around. Like, if I if I want to represent who I am, if I'm saying that we need to know the truth, I need to show up to class. Not only do I need to show up to class, I need to get good grades. I need to show that I can know their shit and my shit, and I need to stand my ground. I need to create a, you know what I'm saying? So when my family started noticing that, oh shit, like this is transforming her, like she's really taking this on. And I started doing like street poetry. I started doing slam poetry at age 15, 16. I was invited on the radio. I was invited to speak to other youth at other different conferences. So I found like, okay, you know, I found my voice. I found my purpose. I found like, this needs to be known, right? And so when they saw that, they're like, okay, you know, and they're like, okay. And the thing is, they really tried to get me to be Catholic and Christian, and you know, they really tried, but I was learning too much, and I was knowing too much, and I was asking too many questions, right? And yeah, it was tough for them. It was tough because I was very rebellious. I would boycott the church. I was just like, it doesn't feel right to me. I don't want to be fake. I want to do things that come from the heart, right? And so that's at 15, right? And then at 18, and at 19, I changed my name. I legally changed my name.
Really?
Right? I was born with one name, which I'd never repeat.
Okay.
And then at 19, I was like, I'm not fucking white. I'm not a novela character. And so,
that's
you know what I'm saying?
That's when you dumped your white boyfriend, Chad, and then you changed your name. No, let me stop.
Yes. I didn't date white boys. I mean, maybe in New York, but I didn't have white friends over here.
Yeah.
But
you changed your
know
name?
What I'm saying? And so I legally changed my name. And so when my family were like, oh shit, now that she's really going to, now she's really getting into it.
Wait,
but I told my family.
You changed your name to the one now, right?
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. That's
yeah, because to me that was like, that's the easiest thing I can do.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing I can do to get rid of this whiteness, of this culture of I mean, that's not the only thing. I mean, there's a lot of work.
No,
right?
of course.
That name is just part one.
Of course.
But yeah, with my family, I told them, I was like, you know what? Naming patterns in our community are fucked up.
It's very
Before,
important.
names had meaning. Names had like a ceremony. There was so much to a name. And now we're naming people from alcohol to cars to, you know what I'm saying? Like, just whack, like whack stuff. And so, and they were like, okay, so you know, so I was trying to.
You're right. I knew a girl named Protein. So
I'm telling you.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You know, I mean, if that were like uncommon, like a rare thing, I get it, but it's like we've lost that, right? We've lost. When you name a child, like there's so many beautiful traditions that we lost. And so to me, it was like, how do I assert myself? How do I wake up every day and tell the world this is who I am?
Yeah. So how did you find that name that you changed your name to? How did you find it? Was it something that you had to search for?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in learning my history, in the particular what is known as Aztec history is actually Mexica history. You know, the native people from the Valley of Mexico, they spoke Nahuatl, right? And Nahuatl is the predominantly indigenous language of the Valley of Mexico. And through learning, I don't know the language. I know very few words, but I just started getting familiar with Citlalli, that means star.
Okay.
You know, and I wanted something easy. I wanted something powerful. And to me, again, I'm 19 years old. And to me, Citlalli, I go, okay, what do stars do? They bring light. That's it. Like, to me, that was easy. I was like, okay. And then I knew that my great-great-grandfather, he was the last one to speak Nahuatl on my mom's side of the family. So knowing that my great-great-grandfather spoke it, I felt a connection to that language. And I felt like I could name myself that. Like, I felt like I was honoring him, honoring the people before him. And so I figured, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to take this name and I'm going to do the best I can to represent and hopefully be some type of light, right? Some type of source of strength for my people.
Yeah.
But I mean, trust me, like there's names now that I'm like, damn, I should have changed it to this other name. You know, 'cause I was young, you know, but you know, like it's all good. Like I probably will change my name later. I don't know.
Yeah, you were walking through the path of empowerment, and that's like that's very noble, you know. And wow, that's very powerful because I've always said, you know, words are very important, labels are very important because they kind of shift the way you think, they shift the way you move. You know, so
Right.
because even words have a spiritual meaning to them. You know what I mean? A very cosmic connection. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's that. Wow, that's very interesting. So what does was it a was Citlalli? What does that mean?
Citlalli means star.
Oh, okay, okay. It means star.
Star.
Wow.
And
Okay,
then
okay.
my middle name is Citlalmina. She was an actual warrior who fought against the subjugation of another group. So that was, she's kind of like a resistance,
Yeah,
kind of a warrior. And then
yeah,
Anawak, my last name, that means land between the waters, which to our ancestors, where I'm from, that meant like that land mass that I come from,
yeah.
which is
Oh
like Mexico,
man.
kind of.
That's so cool. Now let me start getting into the real reason why I brought you here. The reason I brought Mexican excellence, sorry, Mexican excellence,
It's all good. It's
Citrali,
all good.
here is because one of my subscribers sent me one of her videos. And I'm telling you, I'm actually gonna link the video down below so you guys could see what I'm talking about. But her video basically was how do Latin people represent themselves, and how they should represent themselves, right? And she took the census at that time, and she was breaking everything down, you know. So that was very inspiring to me, to the point where I started to like question, yo, should I stop using the Latino name on my name and stuff. So now that's the reason why I got here. So can you do us a favor? Can you just run down, because you are a historian. So can you give us how we should identify ourselves, very plainly, and then tell us the history of why we should.
Okay, so man, let me try to do this real quick. Okay, so first and foremost, the term Latino, it came about in the 70s, right, as a marketing scheme to try to group all Spanish speaking people into one category so that way they can exploit the demographics of that population
Really?
without having, yes, without having, you know what I'm saying? So instead of having to say, oh, I have to make
Yeah.
a Mexican commercial, I have to make a Puerto Rican commercial, I
Yeah.
gotta, like, let's just come up with one to target all these people at once, and bam,
Oh,
right? And they were getting grants.
I thought it was the French who had some South Americans there that came up with the term. Am I wrong in that?
Oh, you're talking about 18th century. Yeah, no, no.
Oh, okay.
The term of Latino, the actual term, it actually means Latin or the actual Southern Europeans. So the origins,
Oh.
the historical origins of Latin,
Yeah.
Latins are the Southern Europeans, right?
Okay.
That's the French, the Portuguese, the Spanish. Those are Latins,
Got it.
right? The term Latin itself, that it represented someone that was an inhabitant of ancient Rome. So if we're going into the historical ancient connection of Latin, we have nothing to do with the Roman civilization. Like,
Got it. Okay.
Latin is, and we don't even speak Latin. Spanish,
Yeah.
it's like an offshoot of Latin. Latin
Yeah.
was like the foundation language,
Okay.
right? So that's historically, that's where Latin comes from, right? The French, the Portuguese, and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But contemporarily in U.S. government, the way that all of us are categorized as Latin, and we can get into Hispanic too, but the way that it was, categorized and created, it was as a marketing scheme. It was a way to dilute, because at that time, Mexicans were the majority. Mexicans were the majority in the Southwest. We weren't too much in the East Coast, but, instead of having to focus on Mexicans, it was like, no, we're going to use a marketing label to get all these people under one category. And that's where the term Latino comes from. And I mean, and this is easily, you can read this on research papers, marketing tools. There's workshops on how to market the Latino population.
Really?
So this is real. Oh yeah, there's workshops.
Wow.
There's people, and the whole concept, it's an investment, right? There's people that
Wow.
actually study our population to
Yeah.
try to come up with, like, how do you promote the beer Corona? How are you going to
Yeah.
promote, like, it's real, right? And so by grouping all people who speak Spanish in one group, right? These corporations wanted to target one audience at the same time, so they can maximize their exposure and profit. And so, and if you're looking at the Latino term as a European term, as a white term, and then you're looking at how they're trying to group all these people that are not white into that term, if you look at it through the white supremacist perspective, you're totally killing off any diversity, any people of color, any color, right? Any color left in our population is wiped out with the term Latino. And so it completely negates Indigenous, it negates African, it negates anything that we have of color, right? That we have of our culture into that term. And so what I'm looking at is, why don't they do that to the English-speaking brown people, right? Why do they want to force all Spanish-speaking brown people into one category? Why aren't Africans, right, or black people, why aren't they called Britannic, right? Why aren't Asians called Britannic? They speak English, they have English surnames. It's like, why does it work for us but not the other way around, right? And so that's where the racism comes in. That's where the repression comes in. That's when you can really start seeing past what their intentions are.
Yeah, because this also goes for Hispanic, the word Hispanic, because that was manufactured, and also you also touched on this too, Latinx. That also goes into the same thing, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't care what they put on Latin. It still doesn't make it okay. Like Latinx, there's people saying, "Oh, gender neutral. Oh, let's make it inclusive." But to me, it's like you can't alter. You can't make it pretty. Like there's no way you're gonna heal the word Latin. The word Latin itself already excludes everybody that's not white. You get me? And so to say that, oh, it's gender neutral and like, we're adding semantics. What I say is, if you're focusing on a European language that's based on a patriarchal model of expression, you're always going to have a sexist, a patriarchal language. If you look at Indigenous languages, on the other hand, you're going to see that a lot of our languages didn't have gender. Gender was plural. It wasn't based. You know what I'm saying? But people, they don't want to talk about that. They don't care about the Indigenous heritage. They don't care about reclaiming Indigenous language.
Yeah.
They rather just, fuck it. This is it. Let's just make it pretty. But I don't accept that. I don't Latinx. Latin, like, to me, I don't roll with that. I mean, I don't agree with Latino. So either you add an X or a K. I can care less. However you spell it, to me, so it's still genocide.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna just ask how should we identify then?
And that's okay. And this is the thing. I tell people, identify with where you're from. Identify with if your region is from, I don't know, Ecuador. Like, what town is your mom from? Everybody in their towns, they all know, they all have a name of calling themselves, right? Like in my town where my mom's from is the Wirarica, right? The Wirarica. If I investigate and look, I say Wirarica. And then even the whole idea that we have to come up with an alternative to Latino, that in itself is wrong, because again, this whole idea that we all have to be grouped, but why?
That's true.
Why do we all have to be grouped? Like, what is the purpose if it's not to exploit our numbers and it's not to trying to take away from our community?
That's true.
And again, like, and that's what I tell people. If you're Mexican, you're Mexican. If you're from Cuscatlan, you're from El Salvador, like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, I don't speak for all people that happen to speak Spanish and who were colonized by the Spaniards. Just like as a Native American, if I speak English, I'm not going to speak for all the, English-speaking Native Americans that were colonized by English Europeans.
Yeah.
And so it really makes us, think, like, why are we speaking in these umbrella terms? Like, why? Why can't we just represent who we are?
Yeah.
And that's what has to do with colonization and nationalism, right?
Yeah.
Because nationalism, colonization, it forces massive groups of people to group themselves together for the economic power, for imperialism, for control, and that's not the way we should be thinking. Like, I understand people like, oh, what's another term? It depends where I'm at. If I'm in New York and I'll say, the Spanish-speaking people in New York, the brown people in New York, the brown and black people in New York. If I'm in LA, I know where I'm from, the Mexican Central American population in LA. Like, it all depends where you're at. It all depends where you're at. and what you're trying to target.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest thing is why do we have to group ourselves into these umbrella terms? Who benefits from that? You know, and if we're not benefiting from that, like, why are we participating in this? Like, why do we have to give up our uniqueness, our diversity, our beautiful cultures for what? For a corporation?
That's true.
Be, you know what I'm saying? To be like a statistic?
Yeah, because the thing about that is because I'm gonna just speak on my experience, right? The way I feel like Latin people have always, and I always say Latin people, and let me just explain why I keep on saying Latin people, is because for what I've researched, which I just found out that I was a marketing scheme. No, the reason why I use Latin people because I thought that we were part of the conversation, and I thought. Because outside, let's be completely honest. Whenever somebody says a Latin person in America, they don't think Rome, they don't think Italy, they don't think Italian, they don't think Greek. They don't think none of that. They think of a either Mexican, Dominican, you know what I mean? People from the Caribbean. So that's the reason why I keep on saying Latin. But I do have to curb my language and learn because I'm still learning here. But The way I see it is we've been X'd out literally out of everything. We've always been in this gray area, you know, when it comes to either politicians or identifying as a race, because we're always told we are not a race. You know what I'm saying? So we're in this little limbo gray area of what the hell are we? And that adds on to more confusion for us. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I said, since race is a made up term, you know, let's start making Latin people their own race, since it's a made-up term. But the way I see it is, because the way you were talking in that video, that we should identify with Native, but you said not all Latin people should identify with Native, right?
Yeah, well, and this is the other thing. There are white people in countries known as Latin America. You know, and that's another thing. Like, not just because you're from Latin America means that you're Native, because for example, Mexico, right? Mexico, who's in control of Mexican government?
El Chapo.
It's the descendants.
Descendants, yeah. Sorry.
Right? Besides. But you know, it's the descendants of the original Spaniards that never left Mexico, right? And so, and there are white Mexicans. They're the ones in control. They're the ones that control the media. They're the ones that are the elite of Mexico. They're the ones that control the culture and the media outlets and all that. You find that same thing in other so-called Latin American countries, right, or Central American countries.
That's true.
So it's like, yeah, just because you're from Mexico doesn't make you indigenous.
2020 has been
That's why I said you have to really look at your family tree.
Using some
right?
of our
There's people on my YouTube channel that they're straight out Creole. They're straight out Criollos, and they're like, yeah, you know, we should be more proud of our being Spanish, and then you look at them, it's like, yeah, they are Spanish. There's 100% Spanish people in Mexico to this day, right? And people don't know that in Mexico, just like all over, you know, the country, all over so-called Latin American countries, the immigration was tailored to white people, right? And so that's why they became the white elite of Mexico, the white elite of Brazil, the white elite. Like, that was constructed politically through immigration patterns that they were saying they didn't want to let black people in, more brown people into those countries, because they're on this objective of whitening up the country.
And they had like these little terms called the greaser scare. They had terms that Mexican people bring in diseases and they're dirty and all this other stuff. That's the reason why I think the whole was it disinfecting Mexican people before they crossed the border was a whole thing, right?
Right, the bracero program. Absolutely, my great grandfather was a bracero, and a lot of the men that came and worked as braceros, a lot of them in the older age, they died of cancer. They died of a bunch of other illnesses that directly connected them to that pesticide and the chemical exposure that they got in the 40s, right? Yeah. And that's real. And that was real.
And that was the reason. I think one of the reasons why there was an uprising. I think was it for 2-3 days or something like that. There was like an uprising. But for those who don't know, also the Nazis came over to America to see how these Rosetta programs were being conducted, and they took cues on how they did it to the Mexican people and implemented that to the Jews in concentration camps, which is insane.
And Hitler, in his Mein Kampf book, he praises Hernan Cortez.
Wow.
He praises, and so that tells you, right? It's like they're like-minded. They see brown and black folks the same way, right? We're roaches. We're a disease.
Yeah.
We are people that are, you know what I'm saying, have to be obliterated. But and then we don't have to go that far. Look at Trump. I mean, I don't want to, lose focus of our conversation, but this whole talk of dirtiness, this whole talk of diseases, of criminals, of bad hombres, like that didn't happen overnight. This has been the language. It's been the rhetoric. It's been the logic behind, how they treat our people. And that's what people, we need to connect the dots, and the dots go way back to 5-6 centuries ago. It's not just Trump. It's not just, it's the whole culture of white supremacy and whoever's in the White House.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Because even though we, Mexican people especially were, the original people in this land, they still are treated and seen as I'm not even gonna say second. I'm gonna say third or fourth, fifth class citizens. Because they're viewed as, you're not even supposed to be here in the first place, even though white folks stole it.
Right. But again, it's like we're not even supposed to know that. We're not supposed to think that. We're not, you know what I mean? Like, we're not supposed to speak openly about white illegal immigration on these native lands. Like, that's considered like crazy talk. Like, what are you talking about? Like, everything about this country is illegal. Everything about the foundation is illegal. It's inhumane. But through papers, through Constitution, through their logic of white supremacy, they normalize it. They want to normalize it. It's part of history, but it's not. This is occupation. We could be talking about Palestine. We could be talking about we're in an occupied territory.
And this is the thing which I go back to the whole race identification thing, because when the Mexican Revolution, when that ended, the U.S. Mexico wanted to protect the citizens that was already here. So the U.S. said the only way to get protection is to mark down the white on the census. And, majority of Mexican and Latin people were classified as white, but never received white benefits outside of that little paperwork. You know what I'm saying? So, which goes to show the whole discrimination in school. You know what I mean? They were classified as white, but they were never treated as white. Which goes to that, same confusion of white supremacy that keeps on clouding our judgment into saying, okay, what are we really? You know what I mean? What can I identify as? Which is a very, very, I think, dangerous thing, walking around with nothing to basically, call yourself as, because I think, like I said, words are very important. I think calling yourself something and identifying yourself as something is extremely important.
Right, because at the end of the day, identity is power. That's what I always tell my students. That's what I say. It's interesting you say that, because in I taught a 10-week course on YouTube, absolutely free. And in one of my lessons, I talked about, I was confused growing up because so many old school Mexicans, they would consider themselves white. And I didn't understand that. I was like, what the heck? Like, why? Right. And so when I started studying, like the trials of actual, identity and citizenship in the United States, especially in Texas, it was like they had to denounce being indigenous. There's a case of Rodriguez in 1897, he was like 100% indigenous man, right? And he was applying for citizenship. And he had a say, right, in his citizenship, because Native Americans were not considered U.S. citizens. And the U.S. government was calling him Native. And they were saying, no, you're Native. And he's like, no, I'm not. I have nothing to do with being indigenous, is what he responded. I have nothing to do with that. I may look like it, but I have nothing to do with being indigenous.
Wow.
So to me, that speaks volumes on the psychological impact, right, of trying to trying to be in this country, trying to get some type of economic benefit, something, right? To the point where you're just like, fuck it. Like, yes, I have, even though I'm brown, even though I'm, like I look indigenous, I have nothing to do with that. And that, to me, it answered my question. Like, why are so many of the older traditions, the older, generations of Mexicans so like, oh no, I'm white. I'm not Mexican. I'm not Indian. I'm not. And I always wondered why. And I'm like, man, this is real. This is real psychological, trauma that generation upon generation. And if that's how you grew up and you have your kids are going to be the same. You're right. Because I didn't understand that. Why are so, and, in a personal example, my own mother, right? My own mother, I'm so-called first generation Mexican here, but she would always tell me, oh, behave around white people. Don't do this around white people. And when white people would come, when she would come across them, she had like this it's a very sad thing, right? But like this kind of like a weird love, like catering to them, like, and I was like, what the heck? Like, but again, it's that we think we're less than, right? We think we're inferior than, and this is my own mother, right? And so as I grew up, as I started learning, like I started telling her, Mom, like, you're just as good as anybody. Like, don't lower yourself. You don't have to alter yourself. You don't. And that was hard because imagine that's my mom. That's one person that I experienced that with.
Listen, they used to do that. They used to do that to my mom too. Like when she ever should go to like Macy's or whatever. They would like, cause my mom was like into like jewelry or whatever the case is. Whenever she goes to Macy's and she's just looking for something, they will be like, "Oh no, I can't show you this. You can't afford it." You know what I mean?
Right.
And she'll be like, "Wait, what the hell?" And like she will actually end up buying it. And I'm like, you got played. You know what I'm saying? You got played. But still, that goes to show that our people are just targeted and viewed as inferior. And that psychological, like you said, the psychological warfare that's in us through generation, is still in effect. So how do you think we can curb that?
I think the best thing is study. You need to study. You need to learn who you are, and not just college stuff. I'm saying like read books, read your own family history, read powerful thinkers. Read, like, to me, honestly, there's so many Black thinkers that I follow. There's so many Native thinkers that I follow. There's so many people out there that are pouring with knowledge and wisdom that really uplift us. There's just, it's so much knowledge. And I think our generation, what we're up against, if we don't want our kids to experience that same, questioning, the whole shame that we experience, we really have to take it upon ourselves, right? Because even like speaking like with myself, like I mentioned to you, I grew up predominantly Black and brown areas. The only white person I knew was always someone in the position of power. So my mom teaching me about that, right? My mom teaching me about whiteness and how that's powerful. And then I go to school and the only white people I encounter are in positions of power. What does that tell you, right? What does that do to you psychologically? Like, oh, white is powerful. White is prestige. And so the only way we're going to break that down is by having these honest conversations, and being open and heal, right? Because these conversations that I have with my family, we talk about white supremacy, we talk about colorism. Why are we talking shit about my little cousin that's dark skinned, and why are we putting down the, you know what I mean? Like, these are real conversations because we're having these conversations. I don't know if you've experienced this, but in my community, it's like if a baby's born dark, it's frowned upon. Like, oh, well, maybe she'll lighten up. And then she has green eyes when she's born, or she's like light skinned. Oh, qué bonita, qué bonita.
It's funny because I experienced that when I was younger. Now, I'm seeing the opposite of it. You know what I mean? I'm seeing the total opposite of it. I'm seeing that they're actually, my family, by the way, is actually starting to get out of that whole white supremacy mindset. You know what I'm saying? Because when I started, first of all, when I started with this podcast, you know what I'm saying? I think my sister was the only one against it. No, don't say that, you could get in trouble, blah, 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 and all this other stuff, because it was basically out of fear, But the more she listened to my podcast, the more my family listened to it, the more they started to see everything around it, to the point where they called me up or when I go to see them, we have like these long discussions about what I'm talking about and everything else around, around it. So because now they're getting more intrigued because they don't know what the hell it was. You know what I'm saying? Now they have a name.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that is,
Yep.
because now they have a name to it. It's called white supremacy.
Right.
Now they have
Right.
now they have somewhat of a grid to look at. Like, okay, this is what it is, and this is the system that I live in, and all this other stuff. Because when I was growing up, all I heard, racism, that's just a black issue. No, it's not. We're not that different. I've always said
Right.
that, Black and Latin people, we actually have a lot in common than we actually think that we have difference. Obviously
Right.
there are some differences. I'm not going to say that there isn't, obviously, but we party the same. We celebrate Jesus and God and Christianity the same. We pretty much cook the same, and we have a family structure that's the same. So the thing that we just going to say, oh no, that's their issue, it's very ignorant. Because you're just you're putting yourself in a position, or you're putting yourself in a structure where, oh, okay, I shouldn't worry about that because I feel like that's coming out of fear.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? And like your example with your family, that's the beauty of talking about this, right? Like I have my sister, I'm 18 years older than my younger sister, and I never try to, you know what I'm saying? I never try to pressure her. I never try to like put this down her throat. I just let her be. But anytime she had questions, she'll come to me anytime. And I remember her being 12 years old and her calling me, right? And saying, oh, this guy was talking shit about Mexicans, and he was this because she grew up in a white area. And she was
there
like,
goes Chad again. There goes Chad again.
Yeah, and she told me, she's like, I told him if he didn't like it to go back to Europe because this is our land. And I was like, damn, like she was like, yeah, she's like, and that's a historical fact. So if you didn't know, to go look it up. I was like, damn, I was like, and she was 12 years old. So to me, I'm like, I did something right.
Yeah.
I'm like, but that's the thing. The youth, it's easy for them. Like they're learning better than we do.
Yeah.
And so if we can facilitate that, if we can just be more of who we are and be more courageous in these conversations, people are listening, and it's going to impact. And that's how we transform our people, and that's how we become better and stronger and reclaim the beauty that's ours, really.
Yeah, and the thing is, I believe, for what I remember, this is the first time I've ever seen a big uprising of Black and Latin people together.
Yep.
This is the first time I've ever seen that. And to be completely honest, this is I think the first time I've ever seen unity actually happen, to the point where I believe the media even took a hold of that and tried to disrupt it with little fake stories about, oh, Mexicans are attacking black folks, and Dominicans are attacking black people in the Heights and all this other stuff, where I even had to make a video. I'm like, listen, this is propaganda. Don't believe that.
Yes.
Even they had to say it, like the people that were involved in multiple interviews. No, this is propaganda. Don't believe that. You know what I mean? Because there is, like I've always been saying, there is an awakening happening. I know that. I see that. I see more Black and Latin people actually hooking up, getting together, start talking about what's going on, actually start, actually seeing what it is. You know what I mean? And I think that me and you are in a very delicate position. There's a lot of pressure on us, but we're in a very delicate position in history to actually walk that line to educate and meet the two, side by side. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, and it's beautiful. Like, to me, and then when people do this, I feel like I'm like a old school, because I work with the Black Panthers in the 90s in South LA. I've always worked, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm used to working with the Black community, right? So when people come to me, I'm like, okay, that's good, right? Like, but we've been doing this. Like, people been doing this, but to this mass scale, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, and and it shows the power, right? It shows the power of our unity. It shows the power of, like, everyone's fed up with this shit, right? And it's like, white supremacy even fucks up white people too. Like, they're victims of this shit.
Oh,
too,
of course,
right?
Of course, yeah.
And so the more people start realizing that it's a system that it's fucking everyone up, that's when people are gonna get fed up. And it's like it's beautiful, like seeing Black Lives Matter and all this stuff, even with my own family too, right? Like having to check them and having to like correct their anti-Blackness and be like, you know what I mean? It was really intense, but that's at the same time, historically, like you're talking about, it's beautiful, right? It's beautiful. I just tell people when that energy fades, keep doing the work. That's what I tell people. I've been doing this 23 years. People ride high on emotions, and it's beautiful, and they get active, and then it dwindles and it fades away. It dwindles and it fades. So I tell people, you know what? Keep going, not just when the camera's out, not just when the TV's out and the news. This is a daily work. This is a daily challenge that we got to take on, right?
Absolutely right. Now, can you tell us how if people can actually watch your video on that whole census race thing, but just very quickly, how can Latin people but fill out that census race part, because this also goes into certain jobs and certain medical forms when we do fill stuff out, so we won't get confused. How should Latin people actually write, or Native people? Let me just correct myself. Native people. How can we fill that box out?
Well, it depends your comfort level. Like myself, I put Native, and under Native, it has a space. It's not just Native. You could put your own nation. Yeah. So what did I put? I put Nawa. Nawa is like the indigenous culture language of where I'm from. Yeah. So that's what I put. But I also know mixed race folks that put other, right? They go to other and they put Black and Native, or they put other. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't always have to stick to what they're saying. Like, there's a lot of fill it in, right? You just fill it in. But yeah, definitely, I would, unless you're white, I mean, don't mark white. If you're Black and Native, put Black and Native, right? Like that's an empowering position to take too, because we're reclaiming people that have been executed and exterminated for centuries. And you're telling them, I'm still here, right? This is how I identify. This is the nation that I identify with. Yeah. And that's sending a loud message. It's sending a loud message to the way that demographics work, the way that they spread out resources. But it's a way for us to reclaim.
That's actually true, because you said in that video, I think Aztecs was one of the options of Native or whatever the case is. Yeah, and you said, see, if we didn't do the work, it wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
So it's up to us, to put that there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very empowering. It's very empowering. Yeah. And like a lot of people, because this is the second census I fill out. 2010, I put Native as well. This one as well. So it's like, it feels good, right? It feels good to not be told who you are, but to claim it and say, I am Native, or I am Black and Native. Like, whatever it is, bring yourself to the table, right? Bring yourself to the table and honor your ancestors.
Yeah, because I remember, I think back in the day when I used to fill out job applications, on top it said race, and it said only pick one. Now people are telling me, listen, it's not the case anymore. You could pick multiple. And I'm like, oh, really? I wasn't aware. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't aware. But usually whenever they said pick one, it was always white, Black, and Asian. So I would just put Black, because there was no Native on there, But if there was Native, then I'll just put Native or whatever. But that's very, very interesting. Wow. And it's basically, like you said, it's basically up to us to let these the powers that be, no, listen, we aren't a class that's just gonna bend over and let you name or label us as you want to.
Exactly.
That's very powerful. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a way to reclaim. It's a way to celebrate. It's a way to make visible what they try to make invisible.
Yeah, and it's real funny too, because if you don't know genetically what you are, you're just gonna go just based on what the status quo is. Mind you, I used to date a Puerto Rican girl, blanquita, but she was like, she had an afro. You know what I mean? And it was really weird. One day she took her DNA genealogy test, right? And the Spaniard part was only 40%. And she had more black and native percentages than the Spaniard part. And I'm like, wait a minute, your dad is dark and your mom is like olive skin. How the hell did you come out so white? You know what I'm saying? And it's really, really weird. And guess what? She, in all job applications, she, puts black and native down. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of empowering, because even though you look a certain way, genetically you're not,
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that just goes to show, like, we can't always discount people for how light skinned they are. Yeah. Because genetics is a whole other science. There's a whole other gimmick to it, right? It's not black and white. Like, there's so many factors to genes and in history and all that. So as a matter of fact, I have in my 10-week course, I have a whole class talking about genetics and genealogy and and I gave I have different guests on there, but it's like a 2-hour lesson that we go over, and it was really good. It was really interesting. The things that we talked about.
So while we start wrapping it up now, let the people know where they can find you, and also that 10-week course, who wants to apply for it. Let the people know. Absolutely. You can find me on YouTube under Mexican Excellence, and on Facebook as well, Mexican Excellence. And on there, as a historian, I'm actually applying to teach history at a community college. But I don't want to wait to get hired because things are crazy right now. So I created a free 10-week class. It's absolutely free. It's already there. You can just watch it one by one. And every Friday night, I would have students tuning in. You don't have to register nothing. You just tune in and take the class for free. And the 10 courses are there. I'm actually going to start, it's called Decolonize. I'm going to start it on a monthly basis now, because it went so good. I mean, we had a blast. Really?
We connected. We deciphered, we decoded, we dismantled. Yeah. And, and it was legit. I had a syllabus. I took attendance. I had a review with students. And I mean, and to me, YouTube is powerful because it's a way to democratize education. Like, not everyone gets to go to college. Not everyone gets to go through these bougie-ass spaces. So to me, because of where I went through and because I know that, I'm like, you know what? I need to make this available to anybody that wants to learn this, because that's what this is about, right? Yeah. And so my first class for this semester is going to be this Sunday at 12. So September 6th. It's going to be monthly because I work full time and I have a bunch of other stuff going on. Gotcha. But I upload my writings. I have two books on Amazon. I have my thesis, and I have my poetry book on there. My poetry book is being used at different colleges throughout the U.S., so I'm very proud about that. So you can find me on Amazon. You can find me on YouTube and Facebook under Mexican Excellence. And I'm always trying to do new videos. I do vlogs. I interview people. Just different things, just try to keep the conversations going. Yeah, most definitely. And she sent me all the links to everything that she does and is doing. I'm including that in the link down below. Listen, Mexican Excellence, thank you for coming by. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Thank you for empowering and enlightening our people. I really appreciate this. You got any words of wisdom or any affirmations you want to leave the people? When you know better, you do better. That's what I tell myself, because we're never going to know everything. We're always going to be learning something. And, just be patient with yourself, love yourself, and have compassion with yourself, especially in these times, and know that our ancestors got your back. Is that the title of your mixtape also coming out? If you do better, it should be, right? I should write that down real quick. Yeah, but listen, thank you very much for coming in, and I will catch everybody later. Peace. All right, so that was the interview with me and Mexican Excellence. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope everybody learned from it. I hope everybody got your pens and pencils out and started to, really write down what they needed to write down. Now, remember, all her information is on the podcast details down below, and for YouTube, description down below. I even do one better. I put it in the comments section and let y'all go crazy on it. All right. So everything that you need to do,
down below. She also does monthly classes. You don't want to miss it. Her last one was on the 6th of September. Obviously, you missed it. You know, this is not the 6th. But the next month probably is going to be on the 6th of October or something, you know? So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed everything. If you want to support me monetarily, Cash App, $Radical Latino, or go to my website and donate at my website, radicallatino.com. Also, if you don't have money to donate, it's totally fine. COVID got everybody going crazy. I get it. You guys can 5-star the podcast at your favorite podcast app, or watch, my YouTube, channel. You know what I'm saying? My videos and all that. I'm monetized. It's totally fine. I get a kickback from it. You know what I'm saying? And also, I got a Instagram and Twitter at radical_Latino_. You can hit me up from there. We could chop it up and all that. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Now I'm gonna catch everybody later. All right?